Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing. I'm from Southwest Missouri, and in Southwest Missouri, Table Rock and Bull Shoals are a critical part of our community. And so you can imagine I'm excited to be on this committee because it really reflects what our community wants and desires and what's important to my district. And so I've heard from a lot of constituents on Table Rock Lake about some concerns. Some of them have to do with declining parks that are not being maintained. And so there's not the money that's being collected from Table Rock, from fees and other things they're seemingly going to a general fund, not being poured back into the community that's spending the money. Is that correct?
That's correct. Those fees are not brought back as they are in other federal recreation facilities.
And sadly, the result is that we have a declining, we're having less and less people come to our parks, enjoy what I call God's country, and be able to fish, and because the parks are in decline. I just need you to understand that, and my goal is to figure out how do we reverse course on that. Would you support any legislation or any changes where we have the funds that are made from the park dedicated to the infrastructure at that location?
Congressman, I think it's a great question. We strongly support the recreational program. This year we worked hard to make sure that we were fully funding the request for recreation. There is legislation pending, I don't know in the House, I know in the Senate, because I just had this conversation in a hearing there, to consider using those funds back in the facilities at which they're generated, those fees. I'm not in a position to endorse any legislation here. I think it's a really good idea that we have that conversation, Congressman, because this recreational part of the Civil Works mission is incredibly important, as you just articulated.
So the other question I have has to do with the issues related to land. So you've got encroachments that are occurring, and I had a really good conversation with Colonel James Schultz yesterday about this, just trying to find out, because I think that you've got to respect the rule of law. We have to, follow the laws as they are, but we have a real world situation where people inadvertently, unknowingly have built structures on what is now being surveyed under better technology, better tools, what is described as core land. And our conversation about this is that, as someone who's representing the interests of the federal government and my community, I want to make sure that we are consistent, that one neighbor is not getting a different set of rules and guidelines than another neighbor. And certainly there are circumstances here that we have to deal with. You've got some structures like a septic tank, which would be extremely expensive to move, and then some situations where you have somebody that's had a shed that's close, or a deck, which the cost wouldn't be that much. So I get it, you have to figure out some kind of discretion in there. And so my thought is that, can we work together on some kind of guidance that would give a clear line for individuals, and if they're in that situation, they own the land, then they could be able to maybe lease. A person could have the choice to move their shed or move their septic tank or pay an annual lease or something like that to the Corps. And then that might help out the other problem that we have, which is the funding.
Congressman Burlison, thank you for that question. And we have encroachment challenges all across the Corps portfolio. And in many instances, one of the authorized purposes, as you spoke to, was recreation, and we wanted these lakes to serve as tremendous opportunities in, as you said, God's country. And they've succeeded magnificently. Everybody wants to be there. And unfortunately, we didn't control where exactly the government property started as well as we should have. So we are General Spellman's guidance to us is try to keep things out of DC as much as you possibly can, and you can understand that, and let the project manager, the district commander make common sense calls. So that's our commitment to you, is work these out issue by issue with landowners. Our park managers out there are absolutely committed to that, and when we have challenges that they can't solve, they know to rapidly get them up to myself and Mr. Connor. That's our commitment to you.
But you're not, you don't believe that there's some need to change the rule or create some kind of circumstance that can be applicable to everyone?
To right now, I think individual solutions to individual challenges with some more broader oversight to make sure that we're generally consistent. Now, we certainly need to be consistent on Table Rock Lake itself, absolutely.
I see.
But to take a methodology that works at Table Rock Lake elsewhere, rather not.
Thank you. I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.